Number 10. Powerpuff Girls accident gag. Powerpuff Girls is a symbol of 1990s animation and the ever-rising popularity of the magical girls format of superhero shows. While the show was only aired in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the spirit of the 90s can be seen in the animation style, mostly due to the fact that the style makes it appear to be almost entirely hand-drawn, which appealed to people who were growing up in the late 1980s and earlier 90s. The show had always been marketed towards children, especially young girls, and most jokes and gags in the show are very tailored to that audience. The fact that makes this gag even more of a standout is it's a joke based on unintended pregnancy in the middle of a kid's television show. Number 9. SpongeBob prison soap joke. SpongeBob is easily one of the most well-known cartoons of the 2000s, though the show technically started in May of 1999. Like many cartoons that aired in the start of the 2000s, SpongeBob SquarePants often takes a turn for the completely ridiculous, whether it's in regards to the characters, setting, or a given situation in the show's reality. Most of the jokes are either based around the nonsensical nature of living in an underwater town, or are aimed thoroughly at children, with this joke being one of the few exceptions. This joke is based around the popular myth that dropping your soap in a prison shower can have some pretty bad consequences for you.
Why, no, Gary, this isn't the bathtub. It's treasure! Look, doubloons! Don't drop them.
Number 8. Lord Farquaad's compensating for something. Shrek was one of the breakout hits from DreamWorks in the early 2000s, made to compete with Disney's established animation superiority. With the jabs at Disney and generally dense packing of jokes and gags in Shrek, it is no surprise that a few of the jokes in the movie are aimed more towards adults than the children that the film is generally designed for. This joke is based on the idea that some people feel the need to compensate, more frequently overcompensate, for something they perceive as a shortcoming in their own life or with their bodies. Shrek's use of the joke is made even more humorous when it is revealed that Farquaad is actually incredibly short, and pretty sensitive about it.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
Number 7. The Rugrats movie circumcision joke. The history of circumcision jokes can be traced back to the earliest stories of the practice itself, in the earliest days of organized religion and the Jewish faith. Though the idea of circumcision was spread rapidly into Western Europe with the rise of the Christian religious sects, the spread of jokes related to it was likely a lot slower, due to the controversial nature of the jokes. The Rugrats movie makes the joke in relation to the practice of cutting a child's umbilical cord from the mother and compares it to circumcision, which would arguably be a lot more painful. The fact that this joke comes completely out of nowhere only adds to the humor, since nobody would expect a baby to make a joke like that.
Man, they cut my cord.
Oh, consider yourself lucky.
Number 6. Rugrats' grandpa watches some adult movies. Rugrats as a show is arguably one of the most memorable cartoons ever produced. It sticks in the minds of the so-called 90s kids, and for many formed a big part of their childhood. While the kids enjoyed the show, there were also a few jokes for the parents who were forced to watch as well. In the episode segment titled Grandpa's Date, one of those jokes is made. The joke is shockingly based on viewing pornography. While out to get some movies to entertain the kids, Grandpa also picks himself up a more mature video, called Lonely Space Vixens, that he tells the children he can only watch after they go to bed. Number 5. SpongeBob is a big sports fan. One of the more well-known jokes in SpongeBob's run was this joke, which is also about pornography. The joke plays off the fact that it can be incredibly embarrassing, especially for someone who wants to be seen as a serious person like SpongeBob, to be caught while watching pornography. To add another layer to the joke, Gary the Snail often functions on the show as a sort of childlike figure to SpongeBob, which would even further exaggerate the panic SpongeBob shows when Gary sees what he is watching. Of course, this is layered on top of another joke when SpongeBob switches to sports. It's a reference to the idea that thinking about sports will distract a person from more sexual thoughts. Like many jokes on this list, adults will find nearly as much humor in the unexpectedness of the joke as with the content itself. Number 4. Hot Girl Shoots Down the Flash. The show Justice League is about most of the big superheroes, from the DC universe at any rate. From Superman to Batman, The Flash, and Hot Girl, the Justice League is one of the largest and best-known superhero groups that exists today. One pair of the heroes, The Flash and Hot Girl, often banter back and forth during the show. In one instance, The Flash brags about he is the fastest man in the world, which Hot Girl responds to by saying that that's why he can never get a date. This is a jab at the phenomenon of premature ejaculation, which is often embarrassing for the people who suffer from it. The humor in this situation stems from the quick shutdown Hot Girl delivers with the line. So quick that the Flash takes a moment to realize how badly he's been burned.
And I had those flames out before the firemen even stepped off their trucks.
That's fast.
Fastest man alive.
Which might explain why you can't get a date.
Yeah. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Quiet.
Number 3. Hercules references an Oedipus complex. Hercules takes place in, as expected, ancient Greece. Since the show is aimed at children and average people, instead of being aimed at classical scholars, most of the jokes have a more modern twist to them, while being lightly themed about ancient Greece and ancient society in general. This reference happens after Hercules and Meg watch a play by Oedipus, and Hercules references the fact that he thought that he had personal issues until he saw it. This is a reference to the famous Oedipus complex, which is a personality complex brought on by an attraction to your own mother. One of the reasons this joke is as funny as it is because of the unexpectedness of a philosophy joke in a children's cartoon, particularly a Disney production. Number 2. Full House has a hooker joke. Full House is a well-known television program from the late 1980s and early 1990s. Though it was primarily aimed towards teens and young adults, the show generally kept its humor and subject matter to a family-friendly range of subjects, almost entirely due to the enormous number of families that watched the show as a group. In that instance, however, there was an easy opportunity for a joke that the adults in the audience would catch, while the children would hopefully miss it entirely. When the older girl refers to a horoscope in the newspaper, the younger one asks if it is a telescope that can only see her. This is a play on the words from the term whore, referring to prostitutes, as well as a jab at the older girl. Also, it could be a reference to her face being a horror to look at. Either way, both versions of the joke must have burnt pretty bad. Number 1. Daffy Duck reads Play Duck magazine. Looney Tunes is widely regarded as one of the most influential and successful cartoon series of all time, with its initial black and white run airing from 1930 until 1943, and the color version taking over in 1943 until the present day. There is no question about the lasting power of this series. One of the points of pride for Looney Tunes has been its ability to tell both witty and child-friendly jokes, which is part of why it has lasted for so long. This particular joke is made well into the colorized era of Looney Tunes, with the topic being, again, pornography. Daffy Duck is seen to be reading a fictional magazine called Play Duck, which is a very thinly veiled reference to the real-world magazine Playboy. Playboy, while a very popular magazine, and a pretty old institution as well, is often regarded as a lower form of media because of its pornographic nature, which explains why Daffy has the magazine ripped away by Bugs Bunny. Also, if you didn't notice, there's what looks to be a cigarette carton on the back of the magazine. Having cigarettes in a cartoon? Geez, times really have changed, haven't they?